Hello, sports fans. Welcome to Super Sports Central. Today, we're going to be ranking every MLB first baseman for the 2022 season. So, yesterday, I did ranking the catchers. So, make sure once you're finished watching this video, you go check that one out. But on to my rankings for the catchers. The first baseman. It's going to be in tier list format again. So, at the top, we have elite, then above average, good, below average, and bad. Starting off, we have Bobby Bradley of the Guardians. He's got good power. He's decent defensively. And he wasn't very good when he was the starter last year, but I'm going to give him a good. Next up, we have Bobby Dahlbeck of the Red Sox. He didn't play a lot in the playoffs last year. He has a ton of power. He strikes out a lot. And he's not great defensively. I'm going to give him a good, but I think he has lots of potential. Next up, we have Brandon Belt of the Giants. Definitely above average. Underrated. He's been good for the past several seasons. One of the better first basemen. I feel like that's something that happens with, like, all the Giants roster. You don't hear about them a lot. Because they're, like, quietly good. Alright, next player, we have Carlos Santana of the Royals. Decent defensively. Has good power. I'm going to give him a good. Next up, we have Christian Walker of the Diamondbacks. Good defender. Wasn't great last year. However, I'm still going to give him a good. Next up, we have C.J. Cron of the Rockies. I'm going to give him a good. Great season last year. Don't expect him to match those numbers or just the overall season he had. However, he's still a very good first baseman. I'm going to give him a good, just under the above average. Next up, we have Eric Hosmer. Last year, or a few years ago, he was one of the best first basemen. Now, he's the average first baseman. He's gotten older. However, he's still what you'd look for in a first baseman. Giving him a good. Next up, we have Eric Thames of the A's. He's 35 years old. He's gotten older. He was never an amazing first baseman or player in general. I'm giving him below average. Next player, we have Frank Schwindel, hopefully I said his name right, of the Cubs. He broke out in the second half of the season last year after the Cubs traded Anthony Rizzo to the Yankees, who we'll get to in a minute. I'm going to give him a good. However, he could make the jump to above average if he continues what he started last season. Next up, we have Freddie Freeman. He's the best first baseman in the league. He's elite. Next up, we have Jared Walsh. He's good. He's an above-average first baseman. Excellent fielder. Has a good bat. Give him above average. Next up, we have Jesus Aguilar of the Marlins. Good hitter. A decent fielder. I'm going to give him a good. Next up, we have Ji-Man Choi of the Rays. Another one I'm going to give a good. He's a pretty good player. Nothing spectacular. Nothing horrible. That's a good. Next up, we have Joey Votto of the Cincinnati Reds. So now, he's getting older. However, he's still above average, so I'm going to give him above average. Because we saw what he can do last year. When he gets hot, I think he hit home runs in, like, at least 8 games in a row, if I recall correctly from last season. Still an above average first baseman. Next up, we have Jose Abreu, another elite first baseman. He's not Freddie Freeman, however, he's still one of the better first basemen, or one of the best first basemen in the league. Next up, we have Josh Bell. He's gotten older, slowed down. He plays for the Nationals now. He's still decent, so I'm going to give him a good. Next up, we have Matt Olson. I think he's an elite first baseman. He has tons of power. And overall, he's a good player. So, Matt Olson, for me, gets an elite. I think he's one of the best first basemen in the league. Next up, we have Miguel Sano of the Twins. He's an average first baseman. I think he's still above average. He's gotten older, but still an above average first baseman. Next up, we have Ryan Mountcastle of the Orioles. He's only 25 years old. He's young, and I'm going to give him a good, but he definitely has potential to make the leap to above average. Next up, we have Nathaniel Lau of the Rangers. He's good. He has potential for a breakout season. So I would definitely, he's one of my breakout candidates this year. I think he could have a really good season and potentially make the jump to above average. Next up, we have Paul Goldschmidt of the Cardinals. You don't hear about him very much. However, he's still a very good first baseman. I'm giving him above average. Next up is Pete Alonso of the Mets. He's elite, tons of power. One of the best first basemen in the league. Next up, we have Rhys Hoskins. I'm going to give him above average. He's a great home run hitter, not a good defender. But I think the positives outweigh the negatives for Hoskins, so I'm going to give him above average, but it's just narrowly above the good. And next up, we have Anthony Rizzo, who I mentioned before. The former Cub re-signed with the Yankees. Above average. If he was younger and still in his prime, he'd be elite. However, he's still a very, very good defender and has a good bat as well. Above average. Next up, we have Rowdy Tellez of the Brewers. He's a solid first baseman. Nothing horrible, nothing spectacular. He gets a good. Next up, we have Spencer Torkelson. Hopefully I said his name right, of the Tigers. He's a streaky player. Nothing spectacular, nothing good. Nothing bad, again. Next up, we have Ty France. So, he was very consistent at the plate in 2021. And he was a better defender. I'm going to give him an above average. And he's another player I feel that's a pretty underrated player. Ty France gets an above average for me. Next up, we have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Above average. He's one of the best players in the league. He hits tons of home runs. He had 48 last year, tied for the league lead. He's elite. Next up, we have Yoshi Tsugo of the Pirates. He's good. Nothing amazing, so he just gets a good. And last, Yuli Gurriel. He plays for the Astros. I'm going to give him above average. I don't think he's an elite first baseman. I think he's an above average first baseman, but nothing amazing. So those are my first baseman rankings before the 2022 season starts, which starts April 7th. So that's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and comment if you agree with my rankings, disagree, and why. Let me know in the comments if you disagree, and if you disagree with who, tell me why. I do my best to post as often as possible. So like, subscribe, comment, and I will see you in the next video.